This is MTech here, and today we'll be taking a look at EACHINE's E511S GPS quadcopter. Here are the items that come with the quadcopter. We have the quadcopter itself, a remote control, 4 identical prop guards, a USB battery charger, and finally a bag of extra pops and screws for the prop guards. Let's take a closer look at the quadcopter and its remote control. The arms of the quadcopter are very compact and fold out, and the feet on the bottom snap into place, which prevents it from folding back up when landing. The quadcopter gets very substantial after the arms are fully extended. Even though this quadcopter looks very similar to the Mavic Air, it doesn't use a brushless motor, but instead uses a brushed 1020 coreless motor, which can be seen inside of the arm. On the top of the quadcopter, we have a button for power and 4 LEDs in the back, which are just for aesthetics and don't actually show the battery life. The quadcopter turns on and off by holding down the power button for a couple of seconds. In the front, there are 2 white LEDs which are very bright and can be seen during the day. And just below that is a non-stabilized 1080p wide-angle camera, which can be panned up and down remotely. On the bottom, there's a microSD card reader where the camera stores its footage. This is a good thing since the Wi-Fi live stream on the app is a bit iffy at times. More about that later. Further down, we have the antenna and battery. The battery slides out when the back piece is pressed. It's a 7.4 volt, 1200 mAh lithium cell. The charging port for the battery is on the side. Even though 1200 mAh doesn't sound like much, I'm quite impressed with the flight time I was able to get out of this quadcopter. And if you're wondering about this hole on the bottom, the hole is empty, but it seems like they were planning on adding an optical flow camera. And a side note for the legs and the arms, there's a piece of rubber which dampens landings. Now this remote control may be familiar to those who've had toy-grade DJI clone drones before, since it's pretty common. The controls are standard. The left stick is for altitude and turning on the spot, and if pressed, headless mode. The right stick is for forward, backwards, and side to side. And if this is pressed down, return to home. Now let's take a look at the buttons. These are the 2 controls which move the camera up and down. It only moves in steps and can't be smoothly adjusted. There's the gyro calibration, emergency stop which has to be held down for a couple of seconds, auto take off and auto land, and a power switch in the middle. On the side, you may notice there are 2 holes which are missing a component. These are actually the fake antennas, which I prefer to take off since they get in the way. On the side, there's a button for adjusting the speed, turning on orbit mode, and record video and photo. And on the opposite side, there's a phone holder which slides out. It's quite flimsy and it also doesn't fit certain phones. Overall, the remote control is quite easy to use and it's quite okay. The nice part about this version of this remote control is that all the buttons are labeled. Alright, so let's set up the quadcopter. First, turn on the quadcopter, switch the remote on. At this point, you don't have to bind it, they both should connect automatically. Next, press the gyro calibration button. The quadcopter should now be pulsing. Pick it up horizontally and turn it counterclockwise until the remote control beeps. Now hold it vertically with the front facing up and turn clockwise. Once the gyro is calibrated, the remote control will beep once more. Now place it down on a flat surface and wait for the LEDs to turn solid. This means that a GPS has been locked on. To gauge the motors, move the left stick up, down, and bolt to the side. In order to connect the app, first download LWFPV and then connect to the quadcopter's Wi-Fi. In the app background, a live view of the camera feed can be seen. On the top bar, there's information such as location, battery life, and signal strength. On the left side, there's auto takeoff, auto landing, and mode select. And on the right, there are record buttons for photo and video. Overall, the app is pretty good and has most of the controls that you need. However, the app struggles to maintain a stable connection. Sometimes doesn't work correctly when the remote control is connected, and is missing controls for adjusting the camera's tilt. In this shot, we have the quadcopter returning home using the return to home feature. This is a very good feature since the quadcopter returns to home if connection is lost, if the battery is low, and if you lose control. Overall, this drone is pretty good and surprisingly able to handle wind. Let's talk about the pros and cons. For the pros, the GPS function works really well and it's easy to set up. The LEDs are very bright and help with orientation. The camera has a nice image and is able to move up and down to see what's in front and also on the ground. The battery life is pretty good and it's fun to fly. For the cons, the quadcopter is a little bit twitchy even on the low speed setting. However, with a little bit of practice, this is not a problem. The remote control can't fit larger phones, and finally the app needs a lot of work. Some features of the app don't work properly and the connection to the drone is very unstable.